Welcome to the palace.
Latasha Pyatt gives us a tour of her home outside of Atlanta. Signs of her fiance Danielle Smith everywhere.
Everything was strategically placed in this room.
Pillows, rugs, and art bear his initials.
So when someone comes through the door, they'll automatically know his presence is here. Some polo shirts.
In their bedroom, a closet full of new clothes, shoes, and watches.
I like to get them nice pieces. I think this one's my favorite. And the diamonds don't hurt.
A house full of her fiance's favorite things he may never get to see. Smith is serving life in prison for murder. The two met online in 2015 while he was behind bars. They've been engaged.
So this is
3 years.
my $4,000 dress, my wedding dress. I bought him a car about 2 years ago. It's in the garage. He has a 2012 Camaro. It's 60,000 miles on that car. It's like a brand new car.
A relationship not guaranteed outside of prison, but not stopping her from planning for the future.
No, because it's an innocent man in prison that needs to be home with his family.
Denzel is Smith's son.
I've always believed my dad was innocent.
You gotta let him go. Let him go already. You gotta let that young go.
This past May, family and friends protested his 2003 conviction outside of a courthouse in Gwinnett County, Georgia, convicted of killing his 2-month-old son, Chandler. The state's medical examiner ruled the boy's death a homicide. Prosecutors told the jury it was a shaken baby case. He was 28 years old and until then had no prior criminal record.
If that was your son being in prison for 20 years for something he have not done, what would you do?
Last year, the Southern Center for Human Rights filed a motion for a new trial after uncovering new evidence they believe could set Smith free. That evidence, testimony from Dr. Saeed Katan, a pediatric neurosurgeon at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. After reviewing the child's medical records, he believes Chandler didn't die from shaking, but from trauma during birth. Born premature at 36 weeks, dispatch records show 2 weeks before Chandler's death, his mother called 911 after she thought the child was coming in and out of a seizure. Paramedics dismissed her concerns, saying the baby was just having hiccups. In an interview with investigators at the time, Chandler's mother praised Smith, calling him Mr. Mom, who takes good care of the baby.
By all accounts, he was a doting father.
Mark London Brown is Smith's attorney. He says the doctors who testified on the state's behalf during the original trial relied on outdated science.
You have a child who's dead, and the only explanation that a jury has given is shaking, and it comes from 2 doctors. Well, what's the jury supposed to do?
For decades, pediatric traumatic brain injuries could only be explained with blunt force trauma, like car accidents, falls, or violently shaking a child. Today, new science shows those same injuries could also be linked to illnesses and biological issues, like seizure disorders. Since 2019, at least 21 people charged with crimes connected to shaken baby syndrome diagnoses have had their convictions overturned or their cases dismissed. To get Smith a new trial, his attorneys need to convince a Gwinnett County judge that Dr. Katan's testimony is new evidence. So in January, Smith's attorney scheduled a hearing for the doctor to testify. But weeks before the court date, the district attorney's office argued the doctor's testimony does not constitute new and material facts, but merely opinion evidence. The judge agreed, and Dr. Katan never got a chance to explain his diagnoses.
It was devastating. I mean, and I've been a lawyer for 15, 16 years, so I've had my share of losses. This was hard.
We were mortified. His family was outraged.
But that's not the end of the road for Smith and his family.
Just nervous about today. But
Last year, the state's highest court agreed to hear Smith's case to determine whether the Gwinnett County judge should have allowed Dr. Katan to testify.
I just want to hug.
In October, Pyatt and Smith's family piled into their cars and headed to Georgia's Supreme Court to pray
God, we asking for justice.
Justice.
and to hear their attorney argue the case.
Today, shaken baby syndrome is a diagnosis of exclusion. Today, it is a diagnosis that never would have been made.
When Gwinnett County's district attorney got its turn, the justices grilled its lawyer.
Do you think expert opinion is evidence? A sworn affidavit from an expert is evidence?
It is, expert opinion is evidence if it's based on the same facts at trial.
Let's go step by step.
It is alleged, it is that at one point in time, the time of this trial, this was the state of science, and any doctor trained would have understood, well, this is what these symptoms together mean. And today that's no longer true because we've done the science and there are other explanations. Why doesn't he at least get a hearing on that?
2 months later,
Yeah, my heart was racing. I felt choked up.
the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Smith, meaning his attorneys will get a chance to present the doctor's testimony in a Gwinnett County court, one step closer to getting a new trial and new hope for Pyatt and Smith's family.
I think you did an amazing job, man.
We'll see. Thanks for being here.
I can't even believe we're here. After 20 years, I can't believe we're here. We're finally here, and we're still fighting.
And her home full of Smith's favorite things will be waiting if he's ever set free.
I never thought about that, and I've gotten a lot of flack from family, friends. Like, what are you doing? This man has a life sentence. I'm like, yeah, he'll be home soon though. And that's just where I stand.